Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Trade Talk. And once again, we have Mr. Soo Kim with us from Bally's. How are you?
I'm doing well, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in Manila. I believe you're in Sweden, is it?
I am. I am in Sweden.
It looks nice and sunny there, so I hope you're
It
enjoying
is. It
yourself.
happens. It happens to be the sun came out. It's nice. Yes.
Well, that's great. Now, we last spoke back in April, about 10 weeks ago, and that was when the Australian $300 million rescue package had just been announced that Bally's, along with Investment Holdings, Bruce Matheson's Investment Holdings, had come up with this package to bail Star City, the Star, I should say. There you go. There's a blast from the past, Star City. But it would bail the Star out from their financial woes. And I believe at the time you sent them 100 million straight away because they were burning through about $1 million a day, I think it was roughly the number that they were burning through. But you've come along and done a deal which is a combined equity and debt deal, but I believe you eventually will convert that debt into equity as well, and you'll end up with, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 57% ultimately.
I think that's about right. Yep.
Yeah, that both yourself and as Bally's and Bruce Matheson through Investment Holdings will end up being shareholders in the Star Entertainment, which obviously we don't need to go into all the woes that company has had over the years. It's been well documented on IAG. Now, we're speaking now because the shareholders just a couple of days ago have now approved of this proposal overwhelmingly, 99% plus votes on both relevant matters. My first question is, there was a very interesting statement by Anne Ward, the Star Chair. She reiterated the statement of the independent experts report, saying that this deal was quote unquote not fair, but in the absence of anything to the contrary, the shareholders would still be better off taking it rather than not taking it. What do you think of that comment?
Well, that's a really interesting comment. I mean, let's see here. Well, look, we obviously stepped into a situation that was in corporate triage, and actually, we think we put together a deal that was quite realistically fair. I mean, obviously not in a maybe there's some kind of legal or corporate governance hurdle that they were trying to get through. But look, we actually took great care to put in, the amount of money that the company had said that they needed to get through at least a year under the current circumstances. That would give us the time to get in there, get control, and then make the changes we know are going to be required. There's going to be substantial changes required in terms of the way the company is doing business today and to the way the company needs to do business in the future. So, that quantum of capital that was really set by the company, and then the question was how do we what do we value what we're bringing versus what's there. I mean, look, the reality is in situations like this, quite often, the incremental dollar gets everything, and what we actually did very specifically is try to cut a deal that was easy for existing shareholders and did not wipe them out. And so, look, I think that I think we accomplished that goal. The overwhelming, whatever was high 90% vote in favor of our deal by the shareholders is a resounding affirmation that we accomplished that goal. That that they welcome the change that we represent and we promise to bring. I think that it's ultimately an endorsement on who we are, because we really haven't been able. It's more of an endorsement of who we are versus what we're going to do, because we haven't been able to really articulate all of the steps we'd like to take, because again, we're still going through licensing, which is still an open matter. But yeah, no, again, just in a very brief summary, we view their overwhelming high 90% vote as an affirmation from shareholders that we did right by them, and it's an affirmation for what we plan to do in the future.
Yeah, well, I suppose there wasn't exactly a whole bunch of companies bidding a path to Star's door, offering more either. So, I mean, ultimately, your offer was the only one on the table, and it was what the market, the market would bear. And there were, it was well documented that there were many companies did look at Star. They did. It was looked at quite closely. So, I guess it's just a very interesting comment that was made, and I was interested to have your view on it. So let's move on from that. So obviously now you're effectively the major shareholder. Of course, there is licensing and probity to go through, subject to regulatory approval. But given that you've got regulatory approval in, what is it, 18 casinos in the US and one in the UK, is that right?
Right, that's correct. And across 12 different states and many countries, but who's counting? We respect the process that the Australian states have to go through, and we're waiting patiently in the wings here to really be able to convert our debt position into an equity position, and actually start to bring the very many necessary changes that are required.
So let's assume that goes through and you then become the major shareholder, obviously. What's the very first thing on Soo Kim's agenda for Star as a company?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, again, there's only so much we can talk about in terms of future plans, because again, I don't want to be accused of trying to manipulate or influence the company prior to going through licensing. But look, I think the it's very clear that the output is unsatisfactory. It's unsatisfactory to us as shareholders. Obviously, it should be unsatisfactory to the current lenders. It's not satisfactory to the all of the stakeholders, the employees, the government, the regulators, and so we need to, and we have been examining how they do business, really evaluating who is there. I mean, that's really probably the element that we haven't been able to do. So the first steps is really to really spend time with the current members of the management team and the operating teams down at the properties, and just really sort of get a sense of who they are, and and why, what is driving the performance as it is, and again, that's sort of where we'll start to I think be able to contribute our insights.
So have you, forgive my ignorance, have you been able to have observer status on the board yet, or does that now become possible with this vote?
I think that's exactly right. I think we have not yet done that, but we are now going to do that. So we have informed the company that we want to establish the protocol by which we can observe future board meetings, and so no, I think that the shareholder meeting was the last one where we are going to be sort of out of the theater. Now we're in the wings and watching carefully.
Right, and of course that's not subject to regulatory approval, because that's just a matter of the company itself, whether it's licensed or not. So you should be able to get that immediately, which I guess then allows you to look at the accounts.
Yes, correct. I think that's right. I think this was an important step for us to hurdle. So this is really one of the first was to get the deal done. The second is was hoping it would be licensing in second, and then the shareholders vote third. But it feels like we've reversed order, so that now that the license, I mean, the shareholder vote's done, then what remains, the last third that remains, is the licensing. And so, look, to that end, currently we still own a convertible debt instrument that obviously converts to a very large number of shares. But again, until we get through the licensing process in total, I think the next step is for us to observe the board, which we plan to do.
Sure. So at this stage, you haven't been able to see the internal financial accounts. When do you expect to be able to do that, which would then allow you to drill down on line items and find out, well, where's this money going and how can we fix that?
I think it's we are establishing the process by which we do it now.
Okay, right. Well, let's move on. So one question would be about how things look moving forward day to day in terms of your representation on the ground and operations. When do you, obviously you'll want to put some of your people in there. When do you think some of your people will actually be on the ground running operations day to day? How far, is that a matter of weeks? Is it months? How long are we looking at there?
Again, it's, I think from our perspective, we'd like to be there as soon as we can. But in reality, it's subject to, we are, the regulatory process that's going there. But look, I'll just say that, look, we're ready to go, and we're ready to both contribute to the team as well as evaluate the team and help, direct the team. So these are all things that we are prepared to do. We just got to get through the licensing process.
A question that I've been asked a lot, and I promised to ask you, was: will the property rebrand? Are we looking at Bally Sydney soon?
It's actually this is a really great question. I think it's possible. I mean, obviously, when we think about these kind of business questions, clearly, we take into account, the current brand equities and the investments made towards the brand. And then we also think about the reputation that the brand has. And so I think there's a push and pull here. It is one of the first questions that we will have to ultimately decide, but we haven't actually made the final decision on this one. So I think it makes sense for us to put some level of imprint on the company. So to draw a line, a distinction between what was in the past and what will be in the future. I think so. And we have a very strong brand, so I think that there's an opportunity there. But again, there's a balance, with again, balancing what of the old is good and what of the old is bad and need change. And that is part of the journey that we're going through, and the brand is absolutely included in that.
So we might see some purchases of some tins of red and white paint at the hardware stores in Sydney sometime soon.
It's possible. It's possible
for the Bally's.
I think there'll be some brand I think there'll be some form of rebranding. The question is what, how far do we go? Or, that, I think that's the question.
Sure. So I remember when we spoke 10 weeks ago, you were quite keen to try to take the company in its entirety with Queen's Wharf, the Gold Coast assets, as well as the Sydney assets. But the reality is that the Queen's Wharf deal has been done by the company. Is there any opportunity to walk that back, or is that a done deal and Brisbane is just not part of this?
Well, look, again, I think as part of the existing deal, we do currently, have the responsibility to manage all of the property. We obviously own two of them outright, and then there's a third that is in the process. Look, that's also another negotiation or an agreement that, frankly, predates us. And like all things that predate us, like when we finally get in there, I think we'll be able to, get a sense of what we would do. versus what's been done. But again, on that one, as we said publicly, if the company is able to, to get that done along the terms that that has been previously discussed, then look, we will be supportive because we're contractually bound to that. But from our number one perspective is, look, we believe that these assets sort of work together, and the problems that are faced by one are all problems that are faced by all three, and so we plan to solve those problems, and we have the responsibility to manage Brisbane, out of the box one way or another. We'd like to continue to manage it. I think we've made that public as well. So I think that is that management is as important as exactly who or how it's owned. So we are prepared and moving forward with our own plan as if the assets are managed as a whole. And I think that's right. Probably the best place to leave it.
So the plan moving forward sounds like owning Star Gold Coast, owning Star in Sydney, and retaining the management contract for the casino for Queen's Wharf. That's what we seem to be looking at, is it?
Well, I think that's the default. I mean, obviously, the owners, the would-be owners of DBC could choose to change management, but look, it's on us to convince them that we are the best managers. So, and sure. This company and ourselves. So, look, again, to the extent that they were not happy with the way the company has managed those assets to this point, well, I would say, look, I think that the shareholders of the other assets would also say the same thing. And so, I think what this investment and our team brings is the opportunity to make this change, and that's exciting.
So I guess the default.
I'm gonna move out to the shade here.
Sure, it looks very sunny there. So it looks like the Far East Consortium and Chow Tai Fook end up becoming 100% owners of Queen's Wharf, with Star having the management contract. Now that raises a number of questions, but they're not questions for you. They're questions for the Queensland government and those two companies, I guess.
Yeah, that's the current agreement. And again, our agreement itself contemplates that current agreement goes through in some way, shape, or form. But just so you know, like, it also contemplates, hey, if it doesn't get done, then we are, I think we said it in our March letter, that look, we would be prepared for every eventuality. I mean, that's, like, Andrew, this is it's just the beginning, actually. The shareholder vote is just another step to a play that hasn't quite started yet. We're waiting in the wings, and look, this play, it's not fully scripted, and so we're going to have to improvise as some of the there are plot twists and reveals. So again, it's these are all the things that the DBC deal is one of those things that we knew could play out a certain way, but also could play out different ways. And I think we were prepared for every eventuality. But again, the simplest plan for us is to plan to manage it on day one, and sometime in the future.
Sure. And that acronym, for people who don't know, refers to the Brisbane, the Queen's Wharf development and the consortium between yourselves and Chow Tai Fook and Far East. Look, you mentioned plot twists. Well, here's a plot twist for you. The AUSTRAC action, which I think the hearings concluded a couple of weeks ago, and we're waiting to hear what penalty would probably be levied. The company recently stated that anything more than 100 million Australian could place the company in jeopardy. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. I mean, look, that was what the when the company asked us to make the investment. They went through a range of outcomes in terms of what was possible, I will tell you that what they've guided towards in terms of what they thought was a justified outcome there was closer to whatever was disclosed or whatever is argued versus potentially what the regulators have asked for on that side. So
Sure. I mean, of
no, I
course,
think
the
that
number
I think it's a real. I think it could be a real problem.
well, the number, of course, in the case of Crown was more like 400 million rather than 100 million. But of course, different scenario, company with different assets, and different set of circumstances as well. So we'll just have to wait to see. I guess Austrac's probably not in the business of bankrupting companies. So, we'll have to
We've
wait and
heard
see how
that
that
too.
plays out.
Yeah. Look, we've heard that too. And look, obviously, we can't do this thing if the company, one of the conditions precedent to our finally, making the final investment and converting is that a company is solvent, and so we obviously got a solvency opinion based on what we thought were the facts at the time of what our deal was announced. But if those facts change dramatically, then then the facts have changed dramatically. So
Right.
look, we are looking forward to getting involved and converting our debt to equity and exerting the sort of management influence that we believe that this company needs to turn around. But look, there are scenarios where we're not going to be able to do that. So let's hope that those scenarios don't play out.
Well, speaking of management influence and employees generally, have you had the opportunity yet to speak to key management people, or even just line, employees at the coalface and gauge sentiment on this deal from the employees of Star?
We have not, again, because we're being respectful of the regulatory, the regulatory framework. I don't want to be, even if I were to say, hey, I just want to meet people and start the assessment of who they are and what their ideas are. I don't want that conversation to be misconstrued as, hey, he's already trying to exert influence over the company prior to getting licensed. So we jealously guard our credibility, our integrity, our probity. So those are assets that are frankly non-negotiable from our perspective. So we wouldn't put ourselves in a situation where we can't, where we might be, or something might be misconstrued. So look, we are waiting patiently. We hope that we've made all the submissions. We've done the follow-ups. We're waiting patiently. Hopefully the regulators can get there presently, and so that we can get on with the task. But until that point, we are actually technically a lender, and we're passive, and we don't want to be passive. Obviously, the whole point of the deal is for us to be quite active. But again, we can only do what we're allowed to do.
Sure. Well, just putting aside, discussing with management, their ideas and so forth. What about just general employee sentiment? Do you have any sense of that? Just coalface employee sentiment?
I would say that. Look, I get the sense that everyone is open to change too. I think it's been disappointing. Look, people. I always have a very simple rule that people don't work for money; they work for the sense of taking a pride and sense of ownership, identity. Look, I think for many years, working at the Star and its predecessors was a job to be proud of. And I do get the sense that that has changed over the last few years, and so I think that there's an openness at the employee level to do things differently, and hopefully restore not only the financial wherewithal of the company, but really a sense of pride in what the company does. Look, the company is important. Australia needs to have a vibrant, gaming integrated resort because, for two reasons. One is, Australia is a major tourist destination, and so why not give tourists more reasons to stay, and open their wallet in country. But for the other reason, it's the opposite. It's the mirror is true too. Like, Australians love to gamble, and they shouldn't need to fly to another country to do it. So those are the two, I think, reasons why I think it's in everyone's benefit for these assets to perform well. We're ready to do our part, and I think that we will be embraced by the employees in a very similar way as we're being embraced by the shareholders. So again, we started this conversation by noting that something like upwards of high 90% of shareholders have approved our deal, a deal that was deemed by the experts as unfair. So I feel like if we were to poll the employees, and again, I'm literally talking out of school here, which I don't like to do, but and say, hey, what about this opportunity for change to bring somebody with a sterling reputation as Bruce Matheson Jr. and ourselves, to the picture and really try to restore the pride of this company. I feel like we're going to get some, a relatively good reception. Look, at the very least, I mean, look, if you didn't like it, you probably left already, right? So the people that are staying, they stay for maybe the hope that it will come back to, a place where you can take some pride in wearing the shirt. So
Sure.
That's really important. We're gonna, it's not just a matter of preserving jobs, but making these jobs great. And so that is something that we absolutely intend to do. And it's a situation that we've been involved with in the past, where we come into a troubled company and everybody's down, but if we're successful, then people, there's a pep in people's steps, and like, it's so important for a customer facing business that the employees are proud of the job that they do.
Well, on the subject of turnarounds, Bally does have a history of turning around distressed properties, I guess you would say. And on the subject of Star, in terms of its position, I mean, we're looking here at a company that has been found unsuitable to run a casino not once but twice. Most newspaper reports paint a pretty bleak, have a pretty bleak assessment of the Australian gaming industry. Crown took 2 years. I mean, with a lot of hard work, Crown took 2 years of remediation efforts to get their license back. Now, how do you plan to get the license back in terms of being found suitable and moving forward with all of the sort of the bleakness for the industry in Australia generally, never mind the individual stuff about Star?
Right. Well, a couple things. First of all, again, I think I think as I told you, the first thing we bring is our own reputation, and so look, we hope to be judged on our merits and our experience and our body of work, and we trust that the regulators will get there on that. Now, specifically as it relates to the remediation plan, look, there is we have that is one element that has been shared with us. We understand the goals of the remediation. Look, I think what we would say on that is, hopefully we'll be doing more than remediating. We'll be excelling, and so we absolutely intend to meet. I don't think we're going to come in and like discontinue the remediation. I think we're going to absolutely meet the goals of the remediation. Hopefully, as fast or faster than the company plans to do it, but also, hopefully higher or more substantive than the company is planning to do it. So again, I feel like remediation. I'll say two things. One is that we embrace the current plan and absolutely understand the responsibility to deliver that as a minimum for the company to go forward. Because obviously, look, it's an untenable situation where the board and the management team don't actually run the casino. You know, it's just untenable. It's like that. I think that there was a concept that would be done for a short period of time, but not for multiple years. Um, it's and so I think everyone's in uncharted territory on that, and I think that's something that we need to get out of. So yes, we will embrace the plan. We'll achieve its goals as quickly, I think higher and more rapidly than the company will do. So at the very minimum, we'll pick it up and deliver what the company was going to already do. But I'd like to think that we're doing a lot more than remediating. It's like remediating sounds like something you do to a house. To make sure it doesn't fall down on your head. Like we're renovating. We're gonna have this as a picture of excellence, not just meet some minimum standard.
Well, your company's got a lot on its plate. As I said before, not only it's got 19 casinos, but not only does it have those, that you also have an interactive business as well, and some other interests on top of that. I won't get into all the details, but there's a lot on Bally's plate. So it'll be interesting to see how you take on this additional work in Sydney. And part of that, I guess, will be these new appointments. Just a couple of days ago, a new chairman was announced for Star City, decentralizing the board from one board for the entire company, and having separate boards for the properties. And there were another, I won't go through all the names, but the main one, of course, was Helen Galloway, who IAG knows, being appointed independent chair of Star Sydney. How do you feel about those new appointments?
But these were all steps of the remediation plan that were agreed to by the company and the regulators and all of the temporary management that's currently there. Look, again, we respect the process that's there, and look, we have not met her or any of the other appointments. We were told of them. Again, we're in a position where we're not able to actually to bring about any changes. So look, my reaction is I think it's probably the right step for the company to do, again, to continue the current remediation plan. But when we think about look, the Star is not a short-term project. This is a forever project, and I think that who knows how we do business when we get to forever. So I think that if it turns out that having independent board members of properties, which is not something that typically is done in the industry, is something that ultimately becomes problematic for us in terms of managing the company, then we will make the argument to the regulators at that point that, hey, this is something that look at everything we've achieved, and this may be something that can change. But again, I really don't know. I would tell you that we have not met them. We were given a heads up about the appointments. I think just a courtesy heads up, and what I would say is make the observation that typically it's a sort of an interesting question, right, of independence. Does creating independent governance at subsidiaries generate a better result, or should we just be responsible all the way through? I think in this case they made a decision. Well, you're not responsible, so we need independent responsibility below. But maybe the simplest solution is, hey, why don't we just have responsibility? So.
Why don't we just be good boys all the time?
Why, right? And maybe in a situation where there is a responsibility, then actually inserting independence might actually be less responsible. Actually, you know what I mean? So I don't know yet. You're asking me for what's my theoretical on this, and my theoretical is I haven't seen it before. I'm open to seeing how it turns out, and let's see. I look forward to meeting. Obviously, I look forward to meeting all the directors, including the ones that are independent at the properties.
Well, congratulations on the milestone of getting the shareholder approval. I guess it seems the next time we need to speak is probably when you get regulator approval. You'll probably be able to be a bit more forthcoming then. We understand that, but we thought it was time to check in with you and to see how you're feeling about it all. I've got one last final question for you. It's a very short answer. Compared to 10 weeks ago when the deal was made, do you feel better, worse, or about the same?
Oh, I feel better, because let me tell you, as much as not every piece of information that has come across has necessarily been positive. The ultimate end goal, which is us to get control of these fantastic assets and have the opportunity to bring about the changes that we know we can do, that is just as strong as ever. And look, there could have been other outcomes that prevented us from getting to the shareholder or not getting the high 90% approval, much less the 51% approval. So no, we feel great. This is amazing, and we are very thankful for shareholders. And my message to them, and really why I wanted to do this call, is I won't let you down. We take our fiduciary responsibilities very seriously. We're absolutely aligned. So we don't make money unless the shares make money. So we own it the same way that you do, and so we're going to do as good a job as we can to again restore this great asset to the place of prominence that it should have. So
I think we just got the headline for this video: Soo Kim to shareholders, I won't let you down.
Yep, and the shareholders are just again, that happens to be the one, but again, it's the stakeholders, it's the regulators, it's the lenders, it's everybody. We're all in it together. All the employees, we're all in this together. And again, you started by it was like your second question is, will we rebrand it? And it's a very interesting question, right? And I'm actually kind of curious what your maybe offline you can tell me what your recommendations are, because I think we're gathering the facts on that. It does seem very clear to us though that there has to be some kind of bright line delineation from the past to the future. That feels very clear to us, like that the way it was done in the past needs to say that was the star and this is something. So a name is one of those ways that it's a statement of intent, and so could it be Bally Star? It could be Bally something else. It could be. I think obviously we take pride in our name, and it's part of our asset package. It speaks to the integrity that we bring to the situation. So I think that there's be some kind of renaming. The question is, and I think that some kind of renaming is part of the line that needs to be drawn between the past and the future. And the question is where do we go with that? And we haven't decided yet. I think that's one of those things that we're going to quickly but carefully take some input from all of the various stakeholders and make what we think is the right decision.
Well, I've asked you all the questions that I want to ask you, so now I'll answer your question right now on air for you, because I think if people will be interested. Yeah. If it were me, I would definitely rebrand it, and I would rebrand it as Bally's, and I would not put the star in there. The star's been so. I'm afraid I'm going to have to use the word toxic. The name has been toxic in so many ways to so many stakeholders, and that's not.
No, we've heard that. We've heard that. We've actually heard that. So I'm just trying to, I'm trying to balance. Look, obviously, if you invested in, sports sponsorships and television ads and stuff, there's a brand equity that builds on that. Yeah, exactly.
There's not much of that out there.
Exactly. It's actually also a relatively new brand, So I'm also aware of that. Look, there's much to do. There's much to do, as you said.
You've got a nice brand too. The white and the red I quite like. White's clean, it's new, it's fresh
and red's
color.
tell you, red's the color of gaming, my friend. Red is the color of gaming. You know?
Yep.
So,
All right, we'll end it there.
I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Very good. Well, we'll end it there. Look, thanks again for talking to us. So we're very grateful that somebody of your stature will speak directly to us in this way. So no, it's fantastic. And frankly, that's something that Star should have probably done more of over the years, been a bit more open with the media and open with its stakeholders. So thank you for that.
Well, I think this is a good one. And Andrew, thank you for the work that you do and the attention that you bring to the situation. And again, I think it is a very important way to communicate to the various stakeholders of what we feel. Look, we're just looking for a moment where we can convert our debt into equity and actually start to exert some level of influence. We are in this, sort of limbo where, look, I'm happy we've gotten this far, but we're not on stage yet. So we're hoping to take that final step. So hopefully, as these conversations go, we could actually share more substance in the future. So
sure, no problem. Soo Kim, chairman of Bally's. Enjoy Sweden. We'll talk to you next time.
Be well. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye for now. Bye. And there you have it, Soo Kim, chairman of Bally's, speaking very candidly on the Star in Sydney and also the Gold Coast. And we'll see you next time on Trade Talk. Bye for now.